Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the EKG case for the week of November 19th, 2012. We've got a great case for you this week. This is a 64-year-old man that presented to the emergency department complaining of nausea and vomiting, and the blood pressure's not bad. It's got a systolic blood pressure of about 115, and maybe get some antiemetics, and his nausea and vomiting's eased up now. And this is the EKG that he gets. He's got no heart failure, his mental status is normal, so I'm not trying to present the case of a person who's acutely hemodynamically unstable, but his EKG is clearly abnormal, and there's, as you'll notice, there's a lot of artifact in here, and unfortunately this was the best 12-lead EKG that we were able to get in terms of the baseline. So you'll just have to trust me on that point. Now, the EKG machine read this as atrial fibrillation. The emergency physicians, therefore, read this as atrial fibrillation. The patient was diagnosed with new onset, first-time onset atrial fibrillation. He got aspirin, he got heparin, he got admitted to a telemetry bed for atrial fibrillation. He was anticoagulated, and during the maybe about the second day or so, he developed a massive GI bleed. He ended up needing transfusions. He had a very stormy course in the hospital. And when people look back at the original 12-lead EKG, they realized that the machine, the emergency physicians, and the admitting physicians had all screwed up big time. So let's take a look at this 12-lead EKG. Now, if you've been paying attention over the past couple of weeks to the EKG cases of the week, one of the points that we've very strongly tried to make is that anytime you're thinking about diagnosing atrial fibrillation, anytime the machine calls something atrial fibrillation, you've got to look closely at the rhythm and make sure that it truly is irregularly irregular, right? So if it's actually regularly irregular, in other words, you see clumps or grouped beatings, don't call it atrial fibrillation. Your machine doesn't know this, however, and your machine overcalls AFib. Physicians tend to overcall AFib also. But remember, atrial fibrillation should be irregularly irregular. Let's take a closer look at this particular rhythm strip. We're just going to focus on the rhythm in this case. And yeah, it does look pretty irregular. And there's a rotten baseline in there, and we've already pointed that out. But look carefully at the QRS complexes. When you do that, you realize it's not irregularly irregular. There's actually clumps of beats or groups of beats. There's clumps of two, clump of two, clump of two. We've been going through this over the past couple of weeks. For those people that missed out on the past couple of weeks, go back to those at www.ekg.umem.org to take a look at what we've been talking about. This is the culmination of that of the past couple of weeks of teaching leading up to this particular case. Now, we mentioned that there's clumps in here, and if you take a look at the interval between the clumps, between the QRS complexes in each clump, everything I've drawn out there has the same distance. And also, you'll notice that the distance, there's a clump, let me just circle those. The distance between the clumps right there is also regular. So this is clearly regularly irregular, and therefore this is not atrial fibrillation. Again, anytime you see clumps of beats, what we've talked about is that there's two possibilities. Premature contractions tend to cause clumped beats, and also second-degree AV block tends to produce clumped beats. Now, these are clumps of two, so either we're dealing with some type of bigeminy or we're dealing with some type of Mobitz. But again, the key thing here, the thing we've got to emphasize is that it's not AFib if it's regularly irregular. When it's regularly irregular, when you see clumps of beats or grouped beats, the two things you got to think about and look for are premature contractions and second-degree AV block. So let's move forward, take another look at that 12-lead EKG. So we first of all established that it's not atrial fibrillation. Yes, there is a rotten baseline, but you've got 12 leads plus a few rhythm strips to look at. You've got to scrutinize all of the leads. So we're going to look at all of the leads, and probably the best lead here just happens to be lead 1. So I'm going to blow that up for you, and we're going to take a really good close look at lead 1, and then you start noticing, you know what, that there are some little blips here, and is that just artifact, or are those P waves? How do you know? Well, just get your calipers and map it out, and those blips absolutely, positively, definitively, indubitably, unquestionably map out perfectly regularly. Those are P waves, folks. There are P waves here, and they are mapping out very regularly. So not only is this not AFib, but we can also say that this is not this clumped beats or regular irregularity. This is not due to premature contractions. This must be some type of Mobitz. All right, so is this Mobitz 1 or is this Mobitz 2? See, when you think about that simple differential, it becomes very easy. And is it Mobitz 1 or Mobitz 2? Well, that becomes pretty easy as well. How do you tell the difference between Mobitz 1 and Mobitz 2? You take a look at the PR interval. Again, we've identified the P waves. There's a long PR right there, and then there's a P wave which has no QRS complex following it. Then you've got a PR that looks pretty normal. The PR is getting longer, and then the P wave is not followed by a QRS complex. Then it starts over again, there's your PR, and then it would continue if we had a longer rhythm strip. And what that means is that this is simply Mobitz 1. The PR interval is getting longer. It's not atrial fibrillation. This is simply Mobitz 1. And then if you look at how fast those P waves are beating, they're beating at, well, I didn't draw that too well, but the rate here for the atrium is probably a little bit over 100 beats or so, and so this is actually sinus tachycardia because those P waves are beating faster than 100. There's Mobitz 1 at a ventricular rates going about 110. Again, key thing here, this is not atrial fibrillation. This patient was misdiagnosed as atrial fibrillation, unnecessarily anticoagulated, unnecessarily developed a massive GI bleed, unnecessarily ended up getting transfused Paxils and had a very stormy in-hospital course. And if somebody had simply looked at the rhythm more closely and remembered our simple rule, and that is that it's not atrial fibrillation unless it truly is irregularly irregular, this entire thing could have probably been avoided. He ended up having just some mild electrolyte abnormalities, and after he was admitted, he converted back to sinus rhythm, but of course, he had presumed atrial fibrillation, so he was anticoagulated, and it was just a mess. It was a rotten case to have happen to this patient because people didn't remember a very simple concept. And again, we mentioned this a couple weeks ago. The most commonly misdiagnosed, incorrectly diagnosed tachydysrhythmia is atrial fibrillation because people fail to pick up P waves, especially when there's poor baseline. So again, remember this very simple concept. When you see a rhythm and your machine is calling it AFib, or maybe you're thinking that it's AFib, look more carefully and make sure that it truly is irregularly irregular before you call anything AFib. If it turns out that it's actually regularly irregular, in other words, there are clumps or groups of beats, there's two possibilities, either premature contractions or it's a type of second-degree AV block. Those two will account for 95% of the cases of regular irregularity. And also be very careful about misdiagnosing atrial fibrillation. All right? So, very, very important thing to keep in mind. And if you start paying attention, if you look for AFib cases, I promise you probably in the next several months, certainly in the next year, you're going to see one or two cases of EKGs that are misdiagnosed as atrial fibrillation, and you're going to know that they're not actually atrial fibrillation. It's a much more benign rhythm, and anticoagulation is not necessary in premature contractions, or in second-degree AV block. So I hope that case was helpful for you. Be wary of your computer calling things atrial fibrillation. I will talk to you next week. Bye for now.
Okay, movie star. Bailey,
Smile.
what did you put up your nose?
Bailey, look at me. Bailey, what'd you put up your nose? A bead? Yes.
All right. Bailey, we're going to try something. We're going to try and get that bead out of your nose, okay? We probably will need to take the toys down for just a minute.
You can play when we're all finished, okay?
Our child life expert here is, as usual, doing a great job.
Can we put it at the other end of your bed? Just while they get that bead out of your nose, and then we can play.
Mom, you don't mind being on YouTube?
That's okay.
Okay, so this nasal drainage has been there for like 2 weeks, huh? So you've had has there been some bad odors with this too? Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing the bad odors.
It is very bad.
All right,
It just blows air in your nose.
You okay with that? You want to touch it?
See, just soft, no
Look at that. Look at that.
Look,
Nothing sharp.
you feel it? Just soft and
what I would like to do is to put a towel under her shoulder so her head's back just a little bit,
kind of like a pillow.
and then we're gonna have to assign someone to like cover the mouth so when you squirt air in that opposite nostril, that she won't open her mouth and
Here goes that
protest.
pillow.
So yeah, let her head like lag back just a little bit. I want to get a close up of that nostril there. So that's kind of like red and sore looking. That narrates, and it's been draining. It's just had like a pussy drainage coming out of there. It's had just like a pus drainage coming out of there.
Foul
Okay.
odor.
And a foul odor.
Really bad.
All right. So let's orchestrate this.
We gotta hold our hands down like a
Put your hands
big
down there
girl.
on, maybe even under your
Sit on
bottom.
them.
Grab your
Sit on
bottom.
your hands.
Sit on your
Good girl.
hands.
Really,
Good
yeah.
job. Good job.
Remember, if you do
And if we hold her
really
there,
still.
we'll hold it above her knee,
Thank
above her
you,
knees, so that she doesn't fulcrum against and kick away. All right, now Rachel, you'll cover the mouth at the right time.
All right, not right now.
Okay.
Don't want to freak her out. We're
Okay.
gonna blow some silly air into your nose, okay?
Now,
And just break her.
what's going to be the best way for me to image this sort of thing here?
So if I'm here, can you still see?
Yeah, I think I can.
See, just
Okay, and you're going to
soft.
try and keep your mouth really closed, okay?
Okay.
Closed, baby.
Okay, Rachel's going to help you
gonna
keep
help
your
you.
mouth closed, okay?
Isn't that silly?
Okay, go for it.
Ready?
You gotta be really quiet. Here comes air. Good job. Close your mouth. Good job.
I don't think you're getting a real good seal.
That does stink. I told you. Good job. You are being such a big, brave girl.
Can I squeeze for a second? Let me just
You're
try.
doing well. You are doing so well.
You are being such a big girl.
See what I'm doing here.
I know, that feels funny.
You're doing a good
You're
job.
doing so good. Try to hold really, really still.
I know
Okay,
it.
so you got her mouth closed. So that now did it progress any at all? Blow your nose real hard.
As hard as you can. You're doing a good job.
Okay.
Loop that's gonna help pull that
Good
bead
girl.
out,
We're gonna
okay?
get it out. Make you smile.
There's that flashlight again. That's gonna help him see it. Good girl. You are so brave. You're doing a really good job. Keep holding that head still.
You know what? I got a better idea. Now you can open your mouth.
You okay?
Bailey, you open your mouth, baby.
All right, turn your head this way.
Open your mouth, baby.
Straight, straight.
Yeah.
Straight as you can. Good job.
1, 2, 3.
Lots of hair.
Oh, it's working.
Oh,
We're working.
It's okay. It's coming, baby. Hold on.
I'm trying to get that bead out.
Keep your mouth open.
Your mouth open. It's making funny noises.
You hear it? Isn't that silly?
Yeah.
Good job.
Is it coming?
Good job, sweet girl.
I don't see it.
Did it bring it down any at all?
Does that tickle your nose?
I'm not sure what that is there.
Yeah.
You're doing it.
Well, let's call ENT. We've tried everything else.
What is this? I need to breathe.
All right, sweet girl.
pretty little tutu you have.
You're so silly.
Which feet now?
You're gonna clap with your feet.
We don't want to see your bottom on the videotape.
That's right.
here.
Ready? Ready? You're strong. That's it. Okay, Terry? All right. So we're going to let you go night-night for just a little bit, okay? And then when you wake up, we're going to get you a popsicle and maybe even a little prize. For being a good girl, okay? You ready? We're going to give you a little treat, okay? It's okay.
Cold water. Squeeze my hand, sweetie.
What's the matter, sweetie?
Is it cold?
You feel cold?
Is it cold?
Okay, baby.
Baby, look. What
Come here.
colors do you
Come here,
see?
Papa's
So there's
here.
Papa right there, okay?
Papa's right here.
All right, we're good.
Papa's right here.
Okay, okay.
There's like got like Papa
Hey,
tape.
hey, we're good, we're good. You did a good job. Good girl. And I have,
Night-night.
I have another dose drawn too.
Yep.
Okay, all
When
right,
if
so
we need
that's
another
in.
dose.
That's in. All right.
She's
good
starting
girl.
to go to sleep here. Her eyes are still open, but
You're not pregnant. You're
she's
pregnant.
doing a little nystagmus.
You want me to do it or you want me to tell you to do it? You think she's ready?
If she's going to be ready, she's ready now. But we can, if we have to, if she reacts, we'll give her some additional medication.
Good girl. Good job. Can you do me a favor? Will you bring me my sheet? All right, honey. With the nursery, like the blank nursery, yeah, the blank nursery sheet that I put on all the I can't find her sheet.
So what is that?
Find out in just a second. It's like a little foamy.
Let's see it.
Let me just make sure that
What
there's
is it?
nothing else.
Aisha.
Good girl. She did awesome.
Just make sure there's nothing else in there.
You're doing so good, Bailey. You are. You're a trooper. See where it was kind of just raw right there.
Okay, it's okay.
You're doing
Good
so
job.
good.
Good job. Okay.
I like it.
Okay. Good girl.
I don't see anything else hiding up in there.
Good
We got it.
Big girl. Yay. So good. All right, let's clean off your nosy. There you go. Big
I'd
girl.
like to look in the back of her mouth real quick just to make sure that nothing was pushed back there. Can you look in your mouth real quick?
Say ah.
Big
Ah.
Yeah.
Just looking with the flashlight.
Not back there.
All right, so let's see what was the little object that we had over here.
I
Okay.
think that was the tip of an eyeshadow here. I'm just gonna suction at the back of her throat. She just got a little brush. A little bit of blood.
I got
Maybe we're
you.
just gonna just like going to the dentist office. You say ah,
Hey, dog.
Open your
Say
mouth.
ah. Hey, dog, baby.
ah, ah,
Good job.
ah.
The big straw. Suck up some of that.
Okay, all done. All done.
I'll finish.
job.
Good girl.
She woke up in just in the right time. The timing was perfect. She's still in La La Land, but she's coming around.
Hey, girl.